I'm DJ Psyched, and you're watching the Get Psyched YouTube channel. Let's get psyched about YouTube. I'm DJ Psyched, you're listening to the Get Psyched Podcast, and today I'm going to try something pretty new here on the podcast. These are going to be like mini episodes based on my blog, and this idea came to me when I realized that it makes no sense that I run a podcast and a blog that don't really tend to overlap in content. It just kind of makes the work incredibly hard for me, like coming up with podcast ideas, and then also my videos. They're all ideas I want to touch on, things I really want to talk about, but I just keep making them separate for no good reason, and so I just want to come on today and start collabing them. Things that are on the podcast first are going to become blog posts, and then things that are on my blog are going to become podcasts, because that just makes sense. I mean, these are topics I'm passionate about, these are things I like, and these are things I want to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about today, actually, is that this is not my normal Get Psyched beanie. I like to wear my NC State beanie whenever I'm recording these podcasts. Also, if you don't know, this hoodie that I wear, composition of a black sheep, I wear it in all my podcasts too. It's from WKNC 88.1. It's their merch. And I always want to support WKNC, and I just really like my NC State hoodie. Not my hoodie. I like my NC State beanie, but I don't have it on right now because I lost it. So this is my fiance's beanie. Shout out to my fiance for letting me wear her beanie. But getting back onto topic, I'm really excited to start this new series here on the podcast because, to make a very long story short, if you've been watching this podcast for a while, hello, I'm sure you've seen that my content has changed so much since I started. I think, one, I feel a lot more comfortable with the content I'm making right now, and I just feel more natural when I'm creating content. And also, I feel like my content is finally starting to get more focused. But I was also having kind of a crisis, like a midlife crisis, where I really was starting to lose myself, and my content was really starting to show that. I think I tried like so many times to make videos about like, I'm revamping things, I'm doing better, I'm gonna get it this time. And I'm just done making videos like that because I don't know. I don't know when I'm done. I don't know when I figured out what I want to do, but I'm just gonna start doing and just letting it happen and creating and seeing where things go. And right now, what I've decided is I'm going to do videos every single Saturday because I want to focus on videos. That's my number one. I love making videos. I love making content. I love talking about things I'm passionate about. So I'm focusing in on videos. I'm still going to upload to my blog. Shout out to getdjpsych.com. Link in the description. And this series is going to help me coincide everything that I'm talking about. Like I said, things that are on the blog are now going to be talked about in this mini podcast series. And this first one, it's called Getting Time Back into Your Busy Life. I actually wrote this blog like months ago. I don't even remember when I first wrote it, but I remember like I wrote it all out. I had my fiance look over it because I always do that. My sister, and my fiance and my oldest sister, the ones I always send my blog post to first to just kind of read stuff. And so I just had their thoughts on it, and they liked it, and I was like, cool. But then I reread it, and I just didn't like it, so I didn't upload it. And I also didn't want to upload it, like, I don't want to upload things if I feel like I'm being hypocritical. Like, I'm not just going to upload something that I don't agree with or don't believe in or don't live. And at the time, I wasn't really living any of this. Like, I was trying really hard, but I also just felt so scatterbrained. I didn't use this advice as much as I wanted to, so I didn't upload it. But this week, I went back, saw it, and was like, okay, if I modify this a little bit, I think I'll feel a lot more aligned with what I'm saying, because I do agree with a lot of the stuff in here, but I do feel like making these podcasts is going to be super useful, because I also think that some of this information should be clarified a little bit more. Getting time back into your busy life. This is something that is really meaningful to me, because, oh my gosh, I just graduated from college last year, and for anyone who's just recently graduated or anything, or just maybe it was from high school, whatever, when you step into the world of working and paying bills and like just thinking that, oh, well, now that there's no school, I'll have all this time because I don't have school. I mean, yeah, school was hard. I'm not going to sit here and say school wasn't hard. School was extremely hard, and I had no time to do anything. But I had this weird misconception that getting out of school meant that I'd all of a sudden have all this time. That's just not how it works. Working is a bunch of time, you know, sorting through bills and all that jazz. When you live somewhere on your own, there's always something, oh man, the washer's broken, or the dryer, or this needs to get done, or what about your car? Oh, your car needs maintenance. There is never enough time, whether you're in school or not in school. Nobody has time. There's this weird illusion that if you're a student, you have no time, or if you're an adult, you have no time. Nobody has any time. So I think this could really resonate with anyone, and it really resonates with me because I was under this weird illusion that when I graduated school, I would have all this time. And that didn't happen. So that's where the beginning of this blog post comes in, right? How many times have you said, I really want to blank, but I just don't have the time right now? That's me. That's me at everything I ever want to do. Oh man, I really wanted this. I just don't have time right now. I would love to, and I'm working on it. I would love to make some kind of like just small merch thing, and not even really merch in the sense that I'll expansively sell it to a whole bunch of people, because let's be real, I have 40 subscribers. I'm not going to sell a bunch of merch, but I do want to Get Psyched on stuff so that I can sport it and my friends and family can sport it. I think that'd be really awesome. I don't have the time right now. And I hate saying that. I hate saying that because the more I say it, the more overwhelmed I feel, the less I get done. That is the most unproductive thing for me to say. I want to do this, I just don't have the time. I will do nothing if I convince myself there's time to do nothing. But reframing that, all right, I want to do this, but it's not a priority. That's helped me a lot. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, okay? I'm not going to read this whole thing to you verbatim. If you want to read the blog post, go to my blog. But just to go over some of the things I talk about here, yes, I do say this a lot, okay? I'm someone who loves to do so many hobbies. I like to read, skateboard, draw, make podcasts, make videos. I edit things. I like to write. I love writing. I started a friggin' book like a couple of years ago now. I'm on like chapter 6. I love the book so much, but I just keep telling myself when I have time, I'll focus on the book. It's not about the time. It's not about the time. And that's something I get into here. This is where priority comes in. All right. Yes, there is not enough time to do everything. That is insanely true. That's so true. But there is sometimes enough time to get the priorities in, right? I mean, you make time to brush your teeth in the morning, probably, before you go to work. You make time to do the things that you need to prioritize, right? You got, as busy as we are, we usually make time to eat our meals, right? We usually make a little time to sleep. Now, yes, you could come at me and be like, okay, no, actually, I don't really make a lot of time to eat. I haven't been eating enough, or, oh, I don't sleep that much. Well, you know, I'm sorry. I understand. Life can get really busy sometimes, and sometimes you can't even do the basics. But bear with me here. If you really, really, really want to try to use this advice, you've really got to come down to what are your priorities? What are the things that matter most to you in your life? That's what I've tried to do. Ask myself that really basic question. I'm not a minimalist, not even in the slightest. If you saw my room in my apartment, no. But I do believe in prioritizing and narrowing down, because that sense of minimalism where it's like what matters most, keep those things. I only agree with the part, or I mostly just agree with the portion on getting your priorities and narrowing things down to those priorities. That's where I think you can do it in values if you wanted to. That's something I think I talk about in here, values. Like, I value my family and friends. I value my physical health. I value my mental health. I value passion. That's why I have the Get Psyched podcast. I like to be passionate about stuff. I lose myself if I'm not being passionate about something. If I'm not writing or creating some kind of video or doing something exciting, I will lose my whole self. That has to be a priority to me. Even though some days I'm like, I just don't have time to X, I will have to cut out other things. All right, I love watching TV a little bit. Not really. I don't like watching TV that much, but it is a relaxing thing, and my fiance likes it. So sometimes we'll watch a show together, which is cool. But there are times where I have to speak up and be like, hey, like, before we watch TV, can I get this thing done? Because I really need to. Like, it would make me feel a lot better. And we're all different. Anyways, it's a whole other thing. Communication is a big part of this, right? With the people in your life. But getting down to it, it comes down to priorities, right? Knowing what matters to you and what you need to do. Even though there's so much I want to do in my life, I try to keep those big three like a priority in my life. I try to make sure that I contact my family and friends as regularly as I can. Sorry if I don't get back to you a lot. Okay, one, I'm really terrible at Snapchat, but I do try and just like communicate more with my friends and family. I try to call my mom every day if I can, every other day, a couple times a week. Look, I don't like to go that long without calling my mom, and I like to talk to my sisters a lot, and my friends, like, I try to reach out as much as I can. That's a priority to me. And going to the gym, working out, physical fitness has become a priority that I love it. I love physical health, so I like to go on walks or play little sports or go to the gym. I just try to make sure I do a little something every day that makes me feel physically active, because I love that. And then the last one, like I said, creating and being passionate. I just lose my stuff if I'm not doing that. So for me, I had to make that a priority. Even though some days, like, yeah, I could do this other thing. If I can just sit down for 15 minutes and write for my blog, or if I could just sit down and come up with ideas or make a new banner for my podcast, something exciting to me, it will make a world of a difference to how I'm feeling. And that's why priorities are so important, right? If you are just trying to get tasks done and none of them mean anything to you, you'll fall asleep at the end of the day feeling not so great, right? You got some stuff done, but what about the most important things to you? Did those get done? Anyways, look, I could go on a whole rant about this, but I do think that when it comes to getting time back in your busy life, prioritizing your life is really important, because those things that make you feel really good, if you can get them done, even if you don't get as much done as you wanted, you'll feel better than if you just got random stuff done and they didn't matter to you. Anyways, yeah. My first tip was to figure out all the things that you want to do. I don't really know how I feel about this tip anymore. I mean, yes, I do think it helps if you're trying to really get things done, but I've learned over the last few weeks that it kind of can serve to be a little bit self-damaging, to kind of weigh on yourself all the things that you're not doing. It just depends on how you look at this step. I do have a list of things that I would love to do, and if there's ever a time where I feel like I don't have anything to do, I could go back to that list and see what's something I want to do. But at the end of the day, I think what helps me the most is to have a focus for the here and now. And if you're into bullet journaling or something, this could probably be really helpful. I used to be, I'm not anymore. But like, if you plan your life out in calendars, right? Let's say for a 6-month time period, if you're like me, you want to make videos very consistently for 6 months. That's your priority, right? I'm going to hang out with my friends and family and work out a lot, but during that 6 months, my focus is in on video making. And then 6 months later, I'm going to focus in on, let's say, Spanish. I want to learn Spanish. What if I focus on my videos for 6 months and then focus on Spanish for a few months? I think for that, it's pretty helpful to make the list. But just having so many things I want to do and trying to get them all done within a certain time frame is unrealistic. I'm starting to realize that. I need to focus in on things during certain time periods. And that is what I'm doing right now. I'm focusing in on video making, and I feel a lot less overwhelmed than when I used to think I could do all these things. Like, let's say for 6 months I focus on video making, and then the next 6 months I focus on training for a marathon or something. 2 very different goals that don't need to happen at the same time, because then I'm, confused about what the priority is. So I do agree a little bit more with the priority thing, a lot more with the priority thing than I do with figuring out everything you want to do. But I do think that for someone who is like me, or if you don't have to be just like me. I have ADHD to that extent where, like, I get all these ideas and I want to do everything. And even if you don't have ADHD and you're like that, like, I'm not entirely sure this writing it down is going to help as much as focusing in on prioritizing things for a certain period of time. But if you are like me and you really love organization, because I feel good when things are organized, when my files are organized in my computer, my hard drive is organized, I have a list of things that are organized. Even I have a grocery list written out where I just check off things that I need, and that makes me feel so much better than just walking into the grocery store. So if you like lists like that, then Todoist is a really nice app. It's free and it's easy to use. You can choose like different little calendar thingies. They're not really called calendars. I don't know, different task levels, and you can put things into your task levels. You could separate them by days. It's helpful if you like to do lists like that, but I actually stopped really using it that much lately. I just kind of focus on the big priorities in my life, and every now and again I'll refer to my Todoist just to make sure I didn't forget anything important, like doctor's appointment and stuff. But for the most part, I use Google Calendar for those kind of references. So, do as you will with that tip, but Todoist is great. It is, but it's not for everyone. And I think for me, I found out it's not really for me. Not right now, at least. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Things changed since the last time I made this blog post. Since the first time I made this blog post. But I did want to keep in the information because it did resonate with me, and hopefully it can resonate with other people. But that's where my second tip comes in, which I completely agreed with when I saw it. Find a way to do things that are efficient for you. I'm still working on this aspect, okay? I'll be working on this my whole life, right? Our life is a big old journey. We work on things forever. But finding a way to do things efficiently for you, I think, is what matters, and that's what I've been focusing on. Maybe to-do lists are for me, maybe they're not. I don't really think they are. But the Google Calendar definitely is for me. And I know so many people would get so stressed out if they used their Google Calendar the way I did. But I love it. I love having that structure. But what I found is that on days that I work, I love to have a very, very structured set of how I'm going to do things so that I can make sure I'm doing them around my job, right? During my lunch break, I want to do this. After work, I'll do this. Before work, I'll do this. But on my days off, I like to not really do that. I just like to have an idea of some stuff I want to get done and make sure I can get it done. Today I woke up and I knew that I wanted to make this podcast. I know that I want to go to the gym and do a little bit of working out. And I wanted to get some podcast things done. First thing in the morning, I did some podcast type things. And then I just chilled with my fiance, had breakfast, all that. Now I'm doing this podcast. After this, I'll go to the gym, and then the day is mine. It feels a lot better not to put stress on myself on my days off than to, like, every day of the week. You know, it's like a siesta. I go at it during the week while I have work, and I do things around the schedule. But then on my days off, I just kind of know what I want to do, and I get it done on my own time. I don't need to schedule every minute of my day, and that's what's starting to work for me. So try things, see what works for you, see what doesn't. Don't do everything I say, because what I do is not going to work for everyone, but don't be afraid to try something, because just because something doesn't work really doesn't mean much, right? It could still end up working out for you. Sorry, this is going on so much longer than I expected. But yeah, the last part I said was efficiency, right? Efficiency is a huge part of this, and this is something that I think made the biggest difference for me. When I started trying to make my life more efficient, it just really helped to remove friction. I've talked about this in past blog posts. The thing that really gets people to procrastinate or not want to do things or just put off tasks forever is that friction. The more friction you can remove, the better you're going to be at doing the thing, or not the better, the more likely you'll be to do the thing, right? So when you're like, say you're like someone who doesn't really like to work out. That's cool. It happens. I didn't really like going to the gym much until I got very consistent with it, and then it became fun. So how did I get myself to that step, right? How did I get to enjoying the gym? I removed as much friction as possible for going to the gym. That's what a lot of people suggest, right? Maybe you should pack your gym bag the night before, put it by the door so that, oh, you're leaving. Oh, I gotta go to the gym. Yep, my bag's right there. It's all ready to go. No worries. But if you wake up in the morning, you're late for work, you have to pack all your stuff for gym, you might be very likely to just, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't have time to pack, right? You remove that friction, you'll be more likely to do something. What if your gym is like 30 minutes away? Are you really going to drive 30 minutes away every day to go to the gym? Or you find a gym that's a little smaller, right close to your home. And this is a pandemic, okay? So if you don't feel comfortable going to the gym, totally understand. This is just an example. But yeah, like removing that friction is what's going to help you. And that's where efficiency comes in. I had such a hard time getting myself to sit down and make podcasts when I had so much friction between me and the podcast. My files were just everywhere. I could, like, if I wanted to edit a podcast, I had to go on a journey to find the files, to edit them. Then my computer was chock full of stuff, and it was hard for me to do. I had to delete random stuff. It was a headache. But I now have a system that flows really smoothly. I've organized my files. I have file names. I know where exactly to click. I know that when I'm done recording this, I know exactly where I'm going to put it, and it'll take me like 5 seconds to find it, place the file in, and then later when I want to go to edit, it'll take me 5 seconds to find it, download it, edit, put it in the edit folder, and then the process of uploading it, I've also streamlined, made it a lot more efficient, because it all used to feel so daunting to me. I actually, like, in my email, I have like a template written up, because I send my podcast to WKNC, and now there's just a template there. I fill out the template, I send it to them. It's so easy. But I used to have to write up the whole email every time, and that friction really made me like so late to send in those podcasts. And it sounds silly, but it's real. Like, little things take up a lot of time, and where I would say now a half-hour podcast, it could take me a couple of days, you know, with like the editing and then downloading and uploading and making stuff to promote it. But before, it would be like the most chaotic week where every waking moment was working on the podcast, and I would just barely get it done. Whereas this week, I just casually worked on each part of the process when I had time, and I was able to upload it and send it in right on time. It felt very low stress, and I'm excited to edit the next one. So efficiency is very helpful because it just removes friction and makes things easier to do, right? So making processes, organizing things, it gets time back into your life, right? If you look, you can't see it here, but there's like these hooks next to my door where I can like just slip my key and my hat on after work. such a small thing, but it's made my life so much easier because I cannot tell you how many times I have lost my key and I'm flipping out because I'm going to be late, but I can't find my car keys anywhere, and then I forget my hat to work, and it's just this whole thing. But having these small systems that make things more efficient, right? It just makes life so much easier. So that was what the point was for, right? Efficiency, it just kind of helps take out friction. It makes things easier. Some people use checklists, right? If you've ever worked at like a restaurant or something, it feels so good when your boss makes like an opening and closing checklist or something, and you can just do each task and check it off versus standing in a restaurant staring at all the stuff. You're like, what the heck do I even do here? It makes it all so much worse. So efficiency, yeah, it's something that's used in everything, right? The checklist manifesto talks about how like pilots use a checklist before they fly off, because wouldn't you be terrified if you knew that every time you got on a plane, your pilot might forget something? No, they have a checklist they have to go through, and it makes their job more efficient, makes you feel better. And the same thing when it comes to anything you do, right? Woo, priority and efficiency. That was the point of the blog post. But my last tip was take the time now to save time later. Like I said, if you've been following this blog for a while, you might have seen this weird period of time where I just kept making videos about fixing my life and I'm going to do so much better. And then I just fell off the face of the earth for a little while. I'm sure most people didn't notice, but it felt weird to me to have to leave everything for a while. But it helped so much. I stopped my podcast for a little while. Not stopped completely, but I went down to once a month. And I missed a month too, which was weird. I missed last month and that felt really weird to me. But taking that time to really like organize my files, like I said, get things more efficient, get my ideas organized. I use this thing called Airtable where all of my ideas are nice and organized. It's so easy to use. When I finish a podcast, I mark it off. I make sure the next one's ready to go. This all took a little bit of time out of my life, but taking that time out has saved me so much time now, and it's making things more efficient, and I'm ready to start uploading once a week again, and that's awesome, right? I took that time, and I have the time now. This is the best way I could say that. I mean, if you've ever watched the Justin Bieber movie, there's a part where, like, Justin Bieber's, like, I don't know, manager or something. She comes up and she's like, you can either postpone a few shows now or cancel a bunch later, because his like throat hurt, and if he kept singing, he was gonna have to miss a bunch of shows. Like, that's how it is sometimes as a creator. Sometimes you have to take a little time now, organize, get systems in place, really work on things, and then you'll have all this stuff going on later, as opposed to just continually pumping out like I was, being confused, having nothing make sense, and then yeah, if I had stayed on that path, I think my content wouldn't be at all what it is now. I wouldn't have my website, which would be tragic, and I wouldn't have all my new banners and stuff that I've been working on. Like, yeah, take time now, save time later. I talk too much, okay? And yeah, I had a few other little tips, right? I have a financial tracking sheet where I just track my finances. It just helps me to not feel stressed. There's nothing more stressful than being like, when's that bill due? But I have a spreadsheet so that if I just want to like, I'm like, oh, is that due soon? It right there, everything I need to pay when it's due, makes me feel better about my life, makes me feel a little less stress. Angel's care guide is where I just log in. Like if I'm like, oh, have I fed Angel yet? Log in. Oh, yep, I fed him yesterday. He's good to go. Google Calendar, like I said, and then stay clean. That's silly, but it's so true. Like when things are organized and clean, it's easier to get stuff done. If my closet was more clean right now, I probably would have my beanie on. So whatever. And yeah, the final tip that I had was organize as you go. It's a thing, you know, when you first start to get organized like me, where you have to maybe sometimes spend a lot of time getting it done. But now I just maintain as I go. I could just be lazy and just continue to just do stuff and organize it later, but that's just wasteful. It just makes things hard now, and then later I have to spend time organizing it, or I can organize as I go. Like I said, I'm going to download this as soon as I'm done. I'm going to upload it into the file that it needs to go in. Bam, it's organized, it's clean. When you go take a shower, you could take the clothes with you to your room to put in the laundry basket, or you could leave them there and make this whole mountain that you got to take out later. Organize as you go. There's my bonus tip. All right. Thank you for listening. This came out a lot longer than I expected. But I hope that the tips were useful. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I hope that this series can be fun and more involved. And I'll figure it out as I go. I don't know, maybe I will or maybe I won't keep the picture in. But I do thank you for listening if you've listened this far. Okay, this is like the third time I've tried to end this. Look, thank you for listening. This has been the Get Psyched Podcast blog mini series thing. I'll come up with a name for this probably, maybe not. But you can check it out at getdjpsych.com if you want to follow the blog, if you want to follow the podcast. And last thing I want to say is super exciting news. I really want to focus on the DIY series of this podcast a little bit more. I want to talk to more independent creators, and I am open to anything that you do. All right, I've had people on this podcast who are like producers, people who are writers. I had a guy on here once. He did a lot of things. He was like graphic design and everything. He had worked in the industry for many years. He was so cool. His name was Adam. You can check out that episode too. I had a lady, Dr. Kelly. I don't want to say her last name because I don't want to mess it up, but she was also on the podcast, and she was like a personal trainer who also trained people on like their mindset and personal training, which is really neat. So anything, you're a creator, independent creator, I don't even know how to put it, just DIY, where you do your own way, you make your own path. I had someone on this podcast once who was like, she was like a psychology person, and I just thought she was super cool. I invited her on to talk. So yeah, I'm open to just about anything. If you go on my website and click on artist highlights, and you'll find this nifty little page, Let's Get Psyched Together. And there's also something where you can put your name, email, what you do, and let's just hit each other up. Let's talk. Let's plan a Zoom. Let's see how we feel, and if we align, we can totally make a podcast together. All that I ask for my podcast guests is that they be very respectful and inclusive people. I don't really want to promote anybody who doesn't respect everyone, but if you are inclusive, respectful, and you love to create, let's do a podcast together. All right, so I thank you so much for listening to this. This is part 1 of the blog podcast series. It's like my 100th time saying that. But until next time, stay psyched. Thank you so much for listening. The intro and outro beat used on this podcast was made by my friend and producer, PME. He's super talented, so make sure to check him out. His links are always in the description. And as always, let me know what you're getting psyched about. I do this podcast because I think getting psyched is done best when we do it together. So please let me know, and until next time, stay psyched.